In the vast expanse of the Orion Arm, the Xeran Dominion had ruled for nearly a millennium. Their fleets stretched across hundreds of star systems, their banners hung over conquered worlds, and their enemies were reduced to whispers and ash. Pride was not merely a trait of their generals. It was law. To the Xeran, every other species existed either as a tool or as prey. Humanity, a young race barely out of its cradle, was regarded as both insignificant and irritating, like an insect that occasionally stung but never killed. In the grand assembly hall of Zera Prime, under towering spires of black alloy and crimson banners, Supreme General Carveth made his declaration. His voice echoed through billions of receivers across the Dominion. Humans were cowards. They hid behind treaties, allies, and stolen technology. They bluffed, they begged, they compromised. In Carveth's words, the Terran race has no warriors, only diplomats and scavengers. Should they face a real war, they will crumble like dust in solar wind. The proclamation was broadcast deliberately in standard trade tongue, so no species would miss it. Alien dignitaries laughed, traders nodded, and even neutral observers privately agreed. After all, humans had avoided every major conflict in the last century through carefully crafted peace accords and clever economic maneuvering. Not once had they deployed a full-scale war fleet. To proud species like the Xeran, this restraint could only be cowardice disguised as strategy. Yet, while the Dominion congratulated itself, humanity's silence was profound. No furious speeches in the Terran council chambers. No angry ambassadors. No televised vows of retaliation. Earth issued no statement at all. The quiet unnerved a few keen-eyed observers, but the dominant opinion was clear. Humans were paralyzed by fear. That judgment spread quickly through neutral systems and pirate networks. If Earth would not even defend its honor, surely it would not defend its borders. But in the darker corners of space, not everyone mocked humanity. Veteran smugglers told hushed tales of black operations that had toppled entire regimes without a single Terran ship ever entering orbit. Old soldiers from border wars remembered assignments where entire squads disappeared in the night after boarding Terran stations uninvited. And always, in those stories, certain names recurred, names that humans themselves spoke sparingly, almost fearfully. The first was known as the American Boogeyman. His name was never given, his face never seen, his methods never fully understood. Where he was sent, enemies simply vanished. Not killed in battle, vanished. Entire command crews found dead at their own stations, their ships drifting silently in space with not a single shot fired. To hear the stories, he was not merely a man, but shadow that wore human skin, a weapon too dangerous even for Earth to use openly. The second name was older, stranger, and whispered in many tongues. The Baba Yaga. Unlike the Boogeyman, this operative left signs of his work. Signs so brutal that no one mistook them for anything but a warning. Burned out facilities, massacred strike teams, and enemy leaders found executed in locked chambers guarded by their own soldiers. If the Boogeyman was terror unseen, the Baba Yaga was terror incarnate, a storm given human form. The Dominion dismissed such tales as human exaggeration, bedtime threats to frighten children. They were myths, propaganda, empty legends for an insignificant species. Generals scoffed at the idea of fearing any single human, much less two. The mighty Dominion fielded fleets with millions of soldiers and weapons that could level continents. What could two lone operatives accomplish against them? Yet humanity, insulted and silent, prepared a reply. They did not summon vast armies. They did not raise banners or mobilize colonies. They sent a message to the Dominion written not in words, but in action. Only 2 humans were deployed. No fleet escorted them. No broadcast announced them. 2 small transport craft departed quietly from deep space docks, their records erased even before launch. As word leaked of this bizarre response, the galaxy reacted with confusion. Were humans truly so arrogant? Sending only 2 emissaries? Was this a token gesture of surrender? Or some misguided attempt at diplomacy? The Dominion laughed openly at the absurdity. In council halls, Xeran officers placed bets on how long it would take to capture these envoys and parade them in chains. To them, humanity had proven its cowardice beyond all doubt, too weak even to attempt resistance. But a few old veterans grew pale, when they heard there were only two. Two, not 200, not 2,000. Just two. In smoky bars on lawless fringe worlds, someone muttered, "If they're sending two, you'd better pray you never learn their names." Even so, arrogance drowned caution. The Ziran High Command instructed its fleet to prepare ceremonial holding cells on the Dominion flagship, assuming these humans would be taken alive for public trial. Supreme General Carveth ordered his personal banner to be hung in the reception chamber, where he would humiliate them before trillions of viewers. "Let them beg," he said with a smile. "The galaxy will see Earth kneel." As the two Terran craft approached Dominion space, sensors noted nothing unusual. No stealth fields, no heavy armament, no escort. Their hulls were unmarked, stripped of all identification. Automated defense networks locked onto them instantly, waiting only for Carveth's command to fire. But he chose not to destroy them. He wanted witnesses. He wanted proof that humans fear death more than dishonor. Inside the Dominion fleet, the mood was celebratory. Officers planned victory speeches. Lower-ranked soldiers joked about who would get to take the first prisoners. Ships ran drills not for combat, but for ceremony. Yet, as the hours passed, a subtle tension spread. The two Terran craft broadcast no signals, no greetings, not even a standard flight plan. They ignored every hail. They did not drift off course or slow down when ordered. They simply continued forward, silent, relentless. Some wondered if the craft were automated. Others speculated they were bombs, easy enough to destroy if necessary. But Supreme General Carveth laughed at these fears. "Even their machines are afraid," he joked to the fleet, earning obedient laughter. Far from the Dominion's boasting, humanity's own council chambers remained dark and quiet. No speeches were made for people of Earth. No news broadcasts tracked the mission. Even among humans, very few knew who had been sent. Those who did spoke it only once, and only to warn others. Do not interfere, do not follow, do not ask questions. The Boogeyman and the Baba Yaga were not soldiers in the traditional sense. They carried no banners, held no rank for the public to see. They were humanity's answer when diplomacy failed and armies were too merciful. They were sent not to fight battles, but to send messages. And this message would be written in blood and silence. The Dominion's fleet welcomed the two Terran craft as predators welcome prey. No weapons were raised in defense. No evasive maneuvers. The Supreme General believed this mission would end with a spectacle. Two bound humans groveling before trillions of viewers. The ships were guided deliberately to the flagship's main hangar, where an honor guard of armed soldiers waited. Cameras rolled. Feeds broadcast live, and alien commentators spoke as if the victory had already been won. The Terran craft landed in silence. No hatch opened. No signal came. Minutes turned to hours. Dominion soldiers finally advanced to breach the first vessel. The moment the airlock was forced open, every system in the hangar shut down at once. Lights died. Gravity failed. In the sudden darkness, weapons fired blindly. When emergency lighting flickered back to life, half the soldiers were dead, their bodies twisted in angles suggesting no battle had taken place, only execution. The Terran craft remained sealed. Panic spread quickly, but Carveth dismissed it as incompetence. He ordered more troops, heavier weapons, tighter patrols. But that night, across the Dominion flagship, crew members vanished. They disappeared from sealed compartments with no breach alarms, no signs of forced entry. Security teams found blood trails that began in the center of locked rooms and ended in empty corridors. By dawn, 50 soldiers were missing. No alarm sounded. No intruders were detected. On the second day, the flagship surveillance systems began to malfunction. Cameras played back distorted images of empty hallways seconds before patrols were slaughtered. Sensor logs contradicted each other. Entire decks reported false life signs, drawing offenders into wild chases that ended in death. Small Dominion vessels stationed nearby reported receiving ghost signals from their own bridge officers, ordering them to move away from the flagship. When they obeyed, they were ambushed and destroyed from within. The enemy was not attacking from outside. The enemy was already aboard. In every case, no one saw how. No open gunfire. No breach bulkheads. No human forms on surveillance, only the aftermath. Precision kills, disabling strikes, entire squad silenced with surgical efficiency. One Dominion captain swore. He heard footsteps behind him in a corridor where no one appeared. Later his crew found with his throat cut a note written in his own blood pinned to his chest. Behind you. The words were in flawless Ziran script. Carveth grew furious. He ordered full combat lockdown. Entire corridors were welded shut. Marines in battle armor guarded every entrance to the command deck. Still, the killings continued. Ammunition vanished from locked armories. Power relays overloaded without warning, plunging decks into darkness at carefully chosen moments. The dead were found not just killed, but arranged, sitting upright in neat rows, helmets removed, eyes open, as if mocking their own comrades. When one Terran operative acted, no one knew. No alarms rang, no sound were heard. People simply died without warning. This was the Boogeyman. He left no sign but the absence of life. When the other moved, it was unmistakable. This was the Baba Yaga. Whole squads were annihilated at once. Wreckage burned. Armored troops were crushed with impossible force, left in shattered piles as warnings. Where the Boogeyman whispered, the Baba Yaga roared. Together they dismantled the Dominion flagship piece by piece. On the third night, the Dominion fleet broke formation. Ships attempted to retreat without orders. Crews so terrified they disobeyed direct commands. Some fired on each other in panic. Internal communications were flooded with contradictory orders, all in Carveth's own voice, even though he was in command chamber surrounded by witnesses. Someone or something was imitating him perfectly. Sowing confusion, Carveth himself began to lose control. He barely slept, and when he did, his dreams were human footsteps echoing in endless halls. He accused his own officers of sabotage, executing several for imagined treason. But their deaths solved nothing. The killings continued, faster now, bolder. Dominion Marines reported seeing shadows move against the walls in empty rooms. A few soldiers fired on their own reflections. By dawn, whole divisions refused to patrol at all, preferring to barricade themselves in sealed compartments that became their tombs when air systems mysteriously failed. The first confirmed glimpse of a human came when an engineer monitoring a corridor feed saw a figure walk calmly into frame. No armor, no visible weapons, just a dark silhouette moving straight toward the camera. The feed cut out seconds later. When the engineer tried to warn his commander, he found himself alone. Everyone else in the control room was already dead, sitting silently in their chairs, eyes glassy and throats slit. Ships sent to reinforce the flagship never arrived. They were destroyed in transit, reporting false navigation data that sent them into asteroid fields or straight into Dominion minefields. Crews whispered that the humans were not merely killers but ghosts, impossible to track, impossible to fight. Every attempt to hunt them failed. Strike teams sent to trap them were found slaughtered, their weapons still fully loaded, their armor unbreached, as if they never had time to raise their rifles. The killings accelerated. Communications relays burned out. Engine rooms imploded from deliberate sabotage. Even Dominion artificial intelligence cores reported unidentified human override signatures they could not purge. The Terrans weren't just killing. They were dismantling the flagship's mind. On the sixth day, the Boogeyman left his first and only clear message, a single word carved into the main navigation console of a destroyer that tried to flee. Stay. The ship was found adrift hours later. Every crew member dead. No damage to the vessel itself. By now, the Dominion fleet was paralyzed. Command ships tried to fire on their own flagship, but targeting systems failed mysteriously. Crew morale collapsed entirely. Veterans begged to abandon ship and take their chances in escape pods. But escape pods launched prematurely were intercepted before they cleared the bay. They were found later, drifting empty. Supreme General Carver still refused to retreat. His pride would not allow it. He ordered a full sweep of the flagship by every remaining Marine. No one came back. Deck after deck fell silent, lights flickering out, only to return hours later to show corridors littered with corpses. On the bridge, Carvitha's remaining officers pleaded with him to evacuate. He refused. He would not let 2 humans defeat the might of the Dominion. By the 7th night, only Carvith and a handful of his most loyal guards remained in the command chamber. Doors were sealed. Automated turrets scanned every entry point. Carvith stood before a massive display, broadcasting his fury to what he thought was still a live audience. He shouted that the humans were weak, that their terror would not break him. No one told him the transmission array had been offline for 2 days. No one heard his last speech. In the silence, footsteps approached the sealed door. Slow, deliberate, every turret locked onto the entrance. The bulkhead's reinforced seals disengaged without force, as if it opened to someone authorized. In that final moment, Carvith understood that this was no myth, no bluff. The Boogeyman and the Baba Yaga had come for him personally. Dominion's flagship floated in silence. Its massive hull, once the pride of the Empire, was scarred and lifeless, every system gutted from within. No distress beacon transmitted. No survivors responded. When the relief fleet arrived, they found the command decks cold, bodies arranged with deliberate precision, and a single untouched console bearing 2 words in standard. Not cowards. Admirals who had mocked humanity now refused to enter the ship themselves. Drones sent to investigate returned scrambled recordings. Shadows moving in empty corridors. Ghost voices issuing false orders, and static-laced whispers repeating in Terran English. Hardened soldiers who prided themselves on never fearing death now refused to disembark from their transports. Some even destroyed their own drones rather than watch the footage. News of the slaughter spread faster than any fleet could travel. Smugglers carried the story to fringe worlds. Traitors repeated it to allies and enemies alike. Each retelling added details, but the core truth remained. Humanity had sent only 2 operatives, and they had dismantled the Dominion's greatest warship without raising an army, without even raising their voices. The myth of Terran weakness was dead. In the Dominion capital, panic brewed beneath official denials. Government broadcasts claimed the deaths were caused by internal sabotage, that no humans were involved. But leaked reports told a different story. Every security feed ended with human silhouette. Every door code was overridden with Terran encryption, and the final voice log spoke a language no Xeran could mistake. Fear spread through the streets of Zero Prime like a plague. For the first time in centuries, citizens whispered of defeat. The military responded with mass purges. Officers who survived were executed for cowardice. Entire fleets reassigned to defensive patrols. But none of it mattered. Across the galaxy, species who had once looked to the Dominion for strength began to look elsewhere. If 2 humans could do this, what could Earth accomplish if it ever went to war in earnest? Neutral powers started signing secret trade deals with Terran colonies. Pirate factions stopped raiding human shipping lanes entirely. 1,000 petty insults against humanity evaporated overnight. Even allies of Earth looked at Terrans differently. They had always known humans were clever, stubborn, inventive. But this was something else. This was not strategy or technology. This was terror given flesh, proof that humanity bred individuals whose mere presence could topple empires. Other species fought wars with fleets and armies. Humans, it seemed, fought with monsters. On Zero Prime, the Dominion's ruling council convened in a secure chamber deep beneath the capital. No media, no witnesses. Holograms of terrified admirals flickered in and out as they reported the same conclusion. The assassins had left no trail, no clue to follow, no face to hunt. They could not be captured because they could not be found. Some counselors insisted the operatives were myths, exaggerations. Others swore they'd seen clear evidence. Ship logs rewritten by human hands. Personal messages from dead soldiers sent moments after their deaths. As they argued, every Dominion communications array lit up at once. A transmission, untraceable, appeared simultaneously on every major frequency across every system. A human voice spoke with perfect clarity, calm and emotionless. No name, no threat, just a statement. Humanity does not need armies. Next time we send 3. No signal source was ever found. No ship detected leaving Dominion space. The message vanished as suddenly as it appeared, leaving behind only silence and fear. Within days, border patrols began abandoning their posts. Entire sectors reported mutinies. Dominion supply routes collapsed as convoys refused to travel through systems even rumored to hold human operatives. Alien black markets adapted quickly. Vendors sold fake boogeyman sensors, amulets claiming to ward off the Baba Yaga, and counterfeit Terran access codes said to guarantee safety. No one trusted them, but everyone bought them. Even seasoned mercenaries started refusing contracts against human targets, no matter the pay. A superstition took hold. If you spoke their names aloud, they would find you. The Terran government said nothing. No official confirmed who had been sent or what they had done. On Earth, people went about their lives unaware of the storm their operatives had unleashed. But within certain classified circles, orders were given quietly. Do not discuss the mission, do not reveal the operatives' identities, and above all, never interfere with their return. The Boogeyman and the Baba Yaga vanished as silently as they came. Galactic politics shifted overnight. Powers that had once dismissed humanity now sent envoys bearing lavish gifts, desperate to avoid offense. Treaties long stalled in negotiation were signed without argument. Worlds under Dominion control began petitioning for independence, emboldened by the fear that the humans might come to them next. Even species who hated Earth agreed on one point: provoking humanity was suicidal. In hidden bars on remote outposts, smugglers traded news stories. Some claimed the Boogeyman could kill entire ships with his bare hands. Others swore the Baba Yaga was more machine than man. No two accounts matched, but all carried the same moral: humanity doesn't bluff. When Dominion intelligence finally compiled its report, the conclusions horrified even the most skeptical counselors. The operatives had not used advanced weapons, experimental stealth fields, or overwhelming force. Everything they accomplished relied on precision, cunning, and a level of ruthlessness that defied comprehension. They had studied the Dominion fleet, learned its language, exploited its pride, and destroyed it from within. The Council debated retaliation, but none dared act. Launching an attack on Earth risked drawing the attention of these two shadows again. And if humanity had more like them, if 3 was not an idle boast, then no fortress would stand. Slowly, grudgingly, the Dominion ordered complete ceasefire against all human territories. Their fleets withdrew to safer space, their propaganda silenced. Officially, the Dominion claimed they were restructuring their defenses. Unofficially, they were hiding. The legends grew faster than the truth could travel. On agricultural moons far from human space, children of alien species played games pretending to be Terran assassins, chasing each other in the dark. On warships, soldiers performed nervous rituals before entering hyperspace, hoping to avoid the human curse. Even Dominion generals locked their doors at night, terrified of footsteps in the halls. In the end, no one learned the operatives' real names. No one saw their faces. No recording showed them clearly. Only their work remained: wrecked ships, silent fleets, and a dead general whose arrogance had summoned humanity's answer. Long after the mission ended, neutral traders would still whisper one question in every port, a question no one wanted to hear answered. If this is what 2 can do, what happens when humanity decides to send more? In the cold silence of space, no one dared mock Earth again.